Water. Okay, comes filming. Okay, so we are going to be painting the apple, and we are going to be using blending in one direction. We're only going to be using nylon, and the next exercise will be Roxette. We're only using one color because we're learning to paint with tonal values. Okay, we're not painting the color, we're painting the dark and the light. So one of the most important things of painting is the variation between dark and light. Later on we're going to go to warm and cold. So the first question you ask yourself when you paint is it dark or is it light? The second question you ask yourself is it warm or is it cold? Now here we've got Payne's grey, so your Payne's grey is very black, and we've got white, and we're going to make a string of color from very dark to very light. So it's a grayscale value. So you can do it in blobs, so you can have, say, a very dark, a medium, a light. So you can do it like this if you want. Otherwise, you can just do a string. Pass me some of that cloth, yeah. Thank you. So this is my sort of, let's say, medium-ish. Go a little bit lighter. And ideally, you want newspaper here because you want to clean your thing on. No, don't do it now. Sorry. So you, from now on, you're always going to have newspaper here. This is nice to see your color. So this is sort of a neutral in between. I clean my palette knife. I take some of this. I add some of that. So I have a very dark, lighter, middle, and so forth and so on. Okay. Make this one a bit more lighter. Take some of that. And of course, in between these, you can also make more colors. Bev, you can put your, we got you, okay. So, okay. Alright, so we've got our basic color mix here. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off by painting in our outline, sort of. So there's my outline of my...
Which position? 3.
No, it doesn't matter which position. This is just the shape. So I'm not worried about what position. I'm just wanting to draw the shape so that I can sort of get the basics. Okay, now what's very important is that you paint your background and your foreground. Your background is what makes your foreground. Most people have focused so much on this, on the foreground, that they don't take into account that the background is part of the painting. And sometimes it's the background that makes the foreground work. Yeah, so now the next thing I do is, I see your brushes are quite, can you see that they don't want to bend further than that? You need to put it in Dettol. If you put it in the Dettol, all this is basically just from not cleaning properly. Okay. And then all that paint goes and sits there. So now the brush becomes like a really short brush. Okay, so you want to put this in Dettol overnight. Okay, so now I'm going to wash in where I see the dark and the light. So I squint. I can close my one eye and squint through the other eye. So I can see there's dark here. Now remember what we said, there's always dark against light. It's light, dark, light, dark. Can you see there? There's dark, there's light, then there's dark, then there's light again. So there's always dark next to light. Always, always, always. So now I just take a very thin paint and I just very loosely, I'm not yet painting in the style, I'm just sort of washing in where I see dark. Now, that, if this is really light here, that is marginally darker, just a little bit, than the actual apple. So that's dark against light, dark against light, dark against light, and then light against dark. So this is just, we're not painting yet, We're just putting in, sort of showing ourselves where we need to focus. Now we're going to start painting. Now there's more than one way of blending. You get a slow blend and you get a fast blend. Now, now you need your, preferably a real cloth for it, because cloth works better than this stuff. So if you put your paint down, you wipe your brush. You put your paint down, you don't wipe your brush, you blend. So what you get then is you get a transition, yeah, from the one to the other one. Can you see? Yeah. Gradual transition. That's a slow blend. If you want to do a fast blend, you put your paint down, clean the brush. Put your paint down, clean the brush. Now you blend. So can you see that is a fast transition? It quickly goes from the one color to the other. This gradually goes from the one color. So this is paint, wipe, paint, don't wipe. Paint, wipe, blend. Got it? Okay. So now I'm going to do the same. Now when we're blending, which is an old classic technique, so at this point we want to blend in one direction. So you can blend with the direction of the apple. Okay? So you're going to put your paint down. Now the trick of putting the layers down is not to have too much paint on your brush. You want to get rid of the excess paint. So I put my color down and I'm working in one direction, so a little bit dry. So your initial, because we're working on paper, the paper absorbs quite a lot of paint. Okay, so your initial layers are going to be a bit stringy. So now I'm blending, and you always start with dark to light. Now wipe, and I want to go lighter this way. So I know my first layers are going to be not so great. So now I want to start. So when I work there, 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 there. I work the area together, okay? I don't paint this finished and then that. So now I want to go up, and I can see there's a lot of light there. So now I need to look at, is it a fast or a slow transition? Now you can also add a slow drying medium. This is acrylic, so it dries very quickly. And you can add a slow drying medium like glycerine to it. Glycerine makes it take longer to dry. So now I'm going lighter. Can you see that? Can you see I'm working this way and this way? Okay, but I'm not painting a wall. It's not like I'm doing like this. I'm almost lifting the brush so that I've got a darker and lighter section. So now I go this way and I'm like, okay, it needs to be lighter. Get rid of the excess paint. So now I want to blend into. And at the end, you're not going to have any dark outline because there is no dark outlines. We just do it because it's comfortable for us to do it. Okay, so now I want to paint the background. So the background's darker than the foreground. There's a light section here, a light section here, and then this is darker than this, but not a lot darker, but it's still darker. So even if it's not exactly the tonal value that you want later on, it doesn't matter. You have to start somewhere. So I'm just putting this on very roughly. I just want to show. Okay, there you are. So I've just got a basic sort of. So now can you see now these two are playing off against each other. Okay, now I can go back and I can say, okay, I want that lighter and that darker. So I'm going to start making this lighter. Very little paint. And that is, and the big thing is also, a lot of people make the mistake, they go large area. You ideally shouldn't work in an area bigger than the size of your brush, the head of your brush. So when I'm not doing that, okay? Yeah. So I'm blending and then using maybe the other side also to blend. So I'm blending, here I'm doing a slow transition. So if I wipe the brush, so I keep my cloth with me all the time. So now I want to go back and I want to make that a bit lighter even. Test my color, put it in there. So this apple is very rounded. So by the third or fourth layer, you're going to start getting the feel for where you want to go.
So is this the right brush to?
Yes, yeah, this is the right brush, and this is a better brush because this brush, the angle brush, gives you a very nice sharp line, and so you could use the front, you can use the side, and you can use the belly. Okay. So now I want to go even lighter here. So I'm just going to do this section here because I want to show more contrast. So it's very important for me to work my background and my foreground together. So can you see this is making that stand out? So now my apple stands out a bit more. So now I'm going to go back to this. So this is slightly darker. So now I'm going, okay, this is a little bit darker. So your initial layer is just a question of getting some paint down, and then you start blending. I just want to get the paint down here. So I don't put too much water with my paint. So now I'm going to work a bit in, and work a bit this way. So I'm working with the apple. Can you see?
You don't wipe the brush with the water after you dip it. Like to clean it.
That depends how much water I've got on the brush. No, I do clean it. It depends on how much water I've got on the brush. I want to get a little bit this way. Now here you start getting two layers over each other. So now you start getting a nice feel. Now I want to go a bit lighter. So it sort of has to feel, the paint has to be able to move. If it feels too dry, I add a drop of water to it. So now I'm going to go lighter. Remember, we're working light over dark. Look there, now I'm going lighter. Can you see that? Now this technique, so here I want a fast transition. This technique that we're doing now is called gradual, which means grey. So this is the technique the old masters used to use. And they would paint the whole picture in this sort of coloring, and then they would glaze the colors, the flesh tones over that. So your final layers are all glazes. I'm just putting, the only reason I'm adding the water is because the paint feels very dry and sticky. Just a bit lighter. Can you see it's starting to become very smooth now? Can you see? Yes. So now I'm starting to blend from the one color into the other. Now here I've got a fast transition, so I'm darker that way. Remember, when I want a fast transition, in between, I get rid of the paint so that I can blend.
When do you use fast and when do you use slow?
Like here's a quick transition from dark to light. Okay. You see, you need to, that's your choice how you can do that. Like there's a bit of dark in between there. Just want to show the contrast. And you can start getting, and that's your stronky. So there's some dark there, just to get it in there. Now you can start seeing the contrast, can you see?
So here you'll be using the fast transition.
Yeah, no, this section here would be slow, from there to there would be fast. So from this is slow, and from there to there would be fast. So now I'm doing lighter here.
The ones that you have can also be. But we couldn't be found.
So I'm not blending like this. I'm going mostly one direction. I'm following the shape of the apple. Can you see that? So now this is becoming lighter than that, which is what I want. But now this is only now starting to look nice because this is like the third or the fourth layer. So you need quite a few layers before you actually will get what you want. So now I'm going darker again. And now I want to blend the dark into that, and I want a quick transition because there is a quick transition there. because it almost forms like a,
You always pack your stuff into there.
like you see, it forms like a circle, like there's almost a circle of dark like that.
And then you get some again.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yes, you can. But I would look first, because I mean, they can't just disappear. Will you?
So now I'm going to make this a bit darker in the background here, so I want to make it show up a bit more.
No, but they might clear up. But yeah, I hope you never leave them in case I was doing something.
Can you see now the apple is starting to stand up?
Maybe they took them, you know.
So you're not going to get the result you want in your first layer. You need a few layers before you can get the result.
Just throw them away.
So there, that's dark, so that would be lighter.